This week on What's for Keto Dinner, of course we're back in the kitchen and I'm going to be showing you guys how I meal prep our keto dinners for the week. This week I'm only going to be focusing on 3 dinners. The other nights will be filled in with just probably something easy like steak and vegetables or like hamburger, bunless burger or something like that and a side salad. But I do want to prep up 3 recipes to make my life easier through the week. If you guys are looking for some more keto meal prep ideas, well then just click up here and watch my whole playlist on what I like to make for my family during the week. These are all keto dinners. A lot of them are easy meal prep recipes. I'm gonna continue to come out with this series because you guys seem to like it. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell down below so you don't miss any one of these videos. So let's get started with what we're gonna make for the week. All right, here's what's on my menu for the week. I'm only making 3 things like I said. We're gonna be making an elk chili. I do have this recipe on my website, but I use ground beef instead. But you guys know me, I have a bunch of ground elk in the freezer, so we are gonna use that instead. And then I'm gonna do chicken crust pizza, which is another recipe on my website. Kids really love this recipe, so they're gonna be excited that we're having pizza for dinner one night. And then we're also gonna be making egg roll in a bowl. And this is a favorite recipe of mine. It tastes so good and plus it's easy to make. First up, I'm gonna get started on that elk chili. Now this recipe on my website, I do give you instructions for cooking it in the Instant Pot, which you could do. You could even try the slow cooker too. It should work in the slow cooker. I haven't tried that yet, just the Instant Pot. But actually I'm gonna cook it on the stovetop today just because my husband was a little nervous since we're using ground elk. He's afraid that it might taste a little gamey or weird if we cook it in the Instant Pot. He really wants it to just simmer on the stovetop for a couple of hours. So I'm gonna get that started first because I want that to be cooking while I'm prepping up the rest of the recipes. Before we get started, I should just really say that I do not feel like meal prepping today or cooking up 3 meals, but I'm hoping that I selected 3 recipes that I know that aren't gonna take very long. So my goal is to be done in the kitchen in an hour. Probably not cleaned up in an hour, but let's get everything made in about an hour. So to make this chili, I do have to dice up some vegetables. I've already cut up some onions. This is something I made from the other day. It's some diced up red onion, so I had some left over. So you will need about 1/4 of a diced up red onion. You're also gonna need some bell pepper, and I like to use red bell pepper in my chili just because it adds some color, but you could use green or yellow or orange. So I'm gonna cut up this, and then jalapeno for some spice. And whenever I dice up jalapeno, I do have to use some gloves. And some people wonder if bell pepper is keto approved. It is a little bit higher in carbohydrates, but I think it's fine. It's filled with a lot of fiber. It has some really good nutrients in it too. So I think it's a good vegetable to add. It adds flavor to your meals. If you're really carb conscious, then you could omit it, but really then you're just having kind of like meat with some tomato, which tomato has carbs in it too, so just think you have to get over it. And same with onion. A lot of people say like, oh, I can't have onion on the keto diet. Like, get over it. Like, as long as like you fit the carbs within your macros and staying under whatever your target is, then I think it's fine. So if like your target is 20 carbs a day, or some people do 30, some people do 40, whatever you can tolerate and still either feel good or stay in ketosis, then have at it. Okay, so there's our bell pepper. Now let's move on to the jalapeno, but I have to go find some gloves. Got them. Now, if you're somebody that likes spicy food, then I highly suggest you add maybe 2 jalapenos, or you could even go with 3 if you really like spice. We're just gonna do 1 jalapeno. I do need to de-seed it, so taking a spoon and just carving the inside out will help get those seeds. That's where a lot of that heat is. You could leave it in if you wanted to. I'm gonna take out the seeds and the ribs. the first thing we're gonna do is add in some avocado oil to our pot. So you want about like 3 tablespoons of avocado oil to go in there. If you don't have avocado oil, you could use butter if you wanted to. So we're gonna heat that up. I guess I should turn on my burner. And then I'm gonna add in my elk meat. So I defrosted this a couple days ago in the refrigerator. And like I said, if you guys don't have elk meat, which probably the majority of you guys do not, you can use ground beef instead. Ground turkey works, ground chicken, ground pork, sausage, whatever you wanna use in this recipe you can do. Found my special chopper tool. If you guys wanna know where to get these, this is a Pampered Chef tool, but I'll have it linked down below. I actually found it on Amazon, and there's other different types of brands that make it too, not just Pampered Chef, but a friend was having a party, so I had seen this and had been wanting it, so I decided to pick one up. And I love it, mostly because I don't really mind it, but my husband doesn't like super huge chunks of ground beef in like his chili or spaghetti sauce or enchilada sauce, anything like that. So this really helps get it into a fine texture crumble. So I'm gonna brown my ground elk in here. And then once it's browned, or probably once before it gets browned, I'm gonna add in the vegetables too, and a little bit of seasoning. We're gonna have salt, chili powder, and cumin, and then oregano. I think this recipe could very easily be a freezer meal too. You could just add everything in there, just even your raw ground beef, and all of your veggies. It does require a can of diced tomatoes. Add that into a freezer safe bag and then freeze it. And then when you want to go to make it, just put it in your slow cooker or your Instant Pot. Even you could cook it on the stovetop too. Some of the meat might not have the same texture, but it's still gonna work. It's still gonna be easy and delicious. Now let's add in the rest of our vegetables. We just need around 2 tablespoons of chili powder, and all of my measuring spoons are dirty, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. And then we're gonna need some ground cumin, and I need like a teaspoon, and there's hardly any left, so I'm just gonna pour the rest of that in there, and I'll have to remember to get some more the next time I go to the store. And then some oregano. It's about a teaspoon of this too. So we're gonna cook this until the vegetables I put in there are starting to get kind of soft, and then I'll add the remaining ingredients. Oh, and I just realized I forgot to add garlic. So I'm gonna add some garlic paste in. I'm gonna add 3 teaspoons, which would be equivalent to 3 cloves of garlic. I think that's 3 teaspoons. This is how I cook. I'm sure a lot of you guys cook like this. Next, we're gonna add in our can of diced tomatoes. And I think it's wise to always look on the back of the nutrition label with whatever you guys are purchasing, just because you never know when they might have some sugar in them. So I don't know why brands, they like to hook you with the sugar, so they want to hook you on their products, so they always add excess sugars in there. So anyway, so you just need a can of that, and then we're gonna stir it. And then I am going to, you know what, this looks a little, I think it needs a little liquid too. So I'm just gonna add a half a can of water. Since I am cooking this on a stovetop and not in the Instant Pot, in the Instant Pot it would be just fine. But I need a little liquid to go in here. Chicken broth would be good too, or beef broth if you have that. I don't want it to be too soupy, but I want it to simmer for hours. I think a fighter jet just went over the house. It's exciting. It's very loud. Oh my goodness, it's loud. All right, now I've brought it to a boil. I'm gonna cover it. We're gonna turn down the heat, let it simmer, and for probably about an hour. And meanwhile, I'm gonna move on to my other recipes. All right, next I wanna get started on the chicken crust pizza. Now, I love this pizza because it's high in protein, so I can ensure that my kids are getting a good amount of protein in their diet. And also, it's basically zero carb because there's no breading, like there's no almond flour, no cauliflower in it. None of the nut flours are in there. It's just ground chicken, a few blends of cheese, and egg. And then I do add some seasoning in there. So I guess there's a little bit of carbs from that, but you don't have to put that in there if you don't want to. So to make this, you will need a pound of ground chicken. Now, if you don't have ground chicken, you could use ground turkey if you wanted to use that too. I think you could even use ground beef. To me, that doesn't really sound appetizing. I like to go with something that has more of a neutral flavor, like the chicken. Turkey, like I said, would be good too. You could probably even do pork. I think pork would be pretty good in here. So it's a pound of ground chicken, and then our binder is gonna be an egg. This is what's gonna hold everything together. So you will need 1 egg. And then also to hold things together, we're gonna add some cheeses. And I like to do a blend of cheese. So I like to add in a 1/2 cup of mozzarella cheese, and that's shredded mozzarella cheese, and then a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Once again, you can experiment and just add in whichever kind you want. Like I mentioned, I'm gonna add in some seasonings. I'm gonna add in a little bit of Italian seasoning and then some garlic powder. And this is just here for some flavor. So it's about like a teaspoon of each. Oh, and you do need some salt. So about a teaspoon of salt. Okay, once that's in there, now we're gonna combine it. You could use your hands if you want, or you can use a spoon. Since I know it grosses some of you guys out when I use my hands, I'll use a spoon this time, just for you guys. Now, I don't know how well this freezes, so if anybody has tried this recipe before or one similar and they've frozen it, let me know because I wanna know if it works. In theory, I really feel like it would work, but you would have to probably freeze it once it's flattened out, and then I would probably make a bunch of them too, so like double or triple the recipe, and then press it out first and then layer it in between sheets of parchment paper and then store it in a big freezer safe bag like that. I think that would work if you're gonna try and meal prep up a bunch of this and freeze some. But yeah, if you guys have done that before, let me know. Okay, now once everything's combined, then we're gonna press it out onto a parchment lined baking tray. All right, so this is just gonna go in the center of your tray. And again, using your hands or a spoon, just press it out into a circular formation so that it resembles a pizza. And it needs to be like maybe around like a 1/2 inch thick. I think that's the best way. I don't think you can, it'd be kind of hard to get it any thinner. Plus you do kind of want it to have some stability. So it's not gonna make like the largest pizza, but you know, like I said, it's higher in protein, so it's gonna be very filling, plus with the cheese. And then of course we're gonna have toppings on this too. So a few more cheese, and probably I'm gonna do some pepperoni because that's the kids' favorite type of pizza. So I just need to spread it into an even layer, and then we're gonna bake this in a 450-degree oven. All right, so that pizza is more like an oval, but it works. All right, so that's gonna bake for 15 minutes in that 450-degree oven. And while that's baking, I think I'm gonna get started on my egg roll in a bowl because I think maybe I should be able to finish that by the time that pizza crust is ready. Now, before I show you how to make this egg roll in a bowl, let's just say that it's a very, very popular keto recipe, and it's one that I kind of had to put my own little special twist on. It's a delicious, delicious recipe, and it's easy to make. I already made it for you guys before on this channel, so just click up here if you want to watch that video. And there's lots of different variations out there, but this one is delicious. And to start, the first thing you want to do is cut up some green onion. So I have, these are actually really big. Whoops, I actually grabbed 5. These are pretty big onions, so I think I'm just gonna use 3. My recipe does call for 4, but these are pretty thick. I think it's because I didn't buy the organic ones. So we're gonna cut this up. You wanna separate the greens from the whites. So these are more of the whites here, because they're gonna cook at separate times. So the greens don't take that long to cook, so they get added at the end, and the white parts take longer because they're thicker, so they get added in the beginning. So that's pretty much all the prep work I have to do for vegetables because everything else is packaged. I do buy pre-sliced mushrooms, so if you didn't do that, then you'll have to slice those up. And then I do use a bag of coleslaw in place of just shredding up cabbage myself. Now, if you wanted to save money, then definitely buy the whole mushrooms and just buy a head of cabbage and thinly slice it up yourself. We are going to be using ground pork in this recipe. But once again, you don't have to use just pork. If you want to use ground chicken, ground turkey, you could even use ground beef, you could use ground elk. I like the flavor of the pork. You could use sausage if you wanted to as well. So I'm going to be using 1 pound of ground pork. Besides the whites of the onions, I'm also gonna add some garlic. So you'll need 3 cloves of minced up garlic. And ooh, that's hot. I'm gonna use the garlic paste. I looked for ginger paste at the store today because I was out of it and they didn't have it. And I just didn't really feel like getting an entire ginger root and messing with that. So I'm just using ginger powder instead. So normally I would want to use 2 teaspoons of freshly grated ginger. So I'm just gonna go with maybe like 3/4 of a teaspoon, maybe a full teaspoon of the dried stuff. Still smells good. Okay, so now that my meat looks like it's fully cooked and everything's combined, now we're moving on to the next step. So next we're gonna add in our mushrooms and our cabbage. Now for the mushrooms, I'm just gonna use 1/2 of a package of this, and I'll save the rest for later on. I could probably even add it to that chili. Nobody would even notice. I am making a mess because once again, tiny pot, large amount of food. Okay, so while that's kind of cooking down a little bit, I'm gonna move on to my sauce. So to make the sauce, you just need, I think it's four ingredients. You need some liquid aminos, white vinegar, sesame oil, and monk fruit. So yeah, so the liquid aminos, that's like the keto person substitute for soy sauce, because soy sauce does have carbs in it. So we will need 1/4 cup of liquid aminos. Now, if you don't have liquid aminos, you could just use soy sauce. You'll be okay, you'll survive. But you do need something for some flavor. And then you need 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, and this is how my white vinegar comes. So I'm I'm gonna just pour it in here and eyeball it. And then a tablespoon of sesame seed oil. And then just for a hint of sweetness, I'm gonna add a little bit of monk fruit. Man, I have like no measuring spoons right now. So it just needs to be a teaspoon of monk fruit. You don't wanna go too much. And then we're gonna stir that. If I had a whisk clean, then I would use that, but I don't know what happened to my whisk. It's probably dirty. Okay, so we're gonna pour this on. And continue to let everything cook. And then our last step is to add an egg to make it more of like that egg roll consistency. So I'm gonna let that cook for a little bit until it starts to get, the whites start to turn white. And then I'm gonna cut it up and scramble it in the rest of the dish. And by the looks of things, that pizza crust is almost done too. There we go. I'm gonna go pull that out of the oven and let it just kind of cool a little bit. This egg roll in a bowl is almost finished, and then we'll finish up that pizza. So now the last step to do is just add in the rest of our green onions. So I'm just gonna throw that on there and kill my burner, mix these in. And what I like to do too is top it with a little bit of sriracha mayo. So just a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise mixed with like a teaspoon of sriracha sauce. And that makes some sriracha mayo, and then just squeeze that on top or spoon it on top. And it's delicious. So that's it. I'm gonna let it cool, and then I'm gonna pack it away so that we can have it later on this week. All right, that pizza is done. Actually, no, it's not done. The crust is done. So this is what chicken crust looks like. Chicken pizza crust looks like. So you do pre-bake it ahead of time, and then we're gonna add on some toppings and then put it back in the oven just to melt the cheese and make it all nice and bubbly on top. So I'm gonna add some low-carb marinara sauce. So I'll get my container of Rao's out from, yeah, Rao's? Not Rouse. I think I used to call it Rouse. I don't know what I called it. So I'm gonna get that out of the fridge because I had some left over from last week, and put that on there, some cheese, some pepperoni. I think I might do some sliced olives too, and put it back in the oven. All right, this is gonna go back into the oven. We're actually gonna broil it this time because I don't really need to worry about baking the crust because that's already baked. I just want the top layer to get cooked and have the cheese melt and be bubbly. So we're gonna broil it on high and just keep an eye out on it because it depends on your oven. So it's gonna take like around 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that. All right, there's the pizza. It's all ready. So now this is something that you could have like tonight for dinner, which we probably will because I know the kids are gonna take one look at this and wanna eat it. But actually it does really well in the refrigerator too because I've had it before as leftovers. So this is really something that you could prep up. If you didn't really want to, like an idea, if you're just like, I don't really know about cold pizza like this and reheating it, what you could do is you could do two things. You could prep up your chicken pizza crust, like the raw part, flatten it out, store it in the refrigerator, and then the night that you want to make it, you just finish it up. It doesn't take very long, 15, 20 minutes. Really, this recipe doesn't take that long anyway, so you probably could get it done in under 30 minutes on a weeknight. So you could do that. You could also bake up the crust like we did and then store it in the refrigerator, and then add your toppings like the night you're gonna make it, add your toppings, and then instead of broiling it, well, you could still probably broil it. I just worry if it's gonna get cooked all the way through. I would probably just put it back in the oven at around like 350 or 400, and then once my toppings are on, let it cook, and then that should help heat the whole pizza the rest of the way through. So a couple of different options there. It just depends on whether you're a super picky eater and you don't like to have like cold pizza, cold reheated pizza. If you want it more of a fresh tasting pizza, then maybe go one of those other two routes. All right, the next recipe we need to revisit is our chili, and I think it's done. I just had it simmering over there on the actual stove top rather than right in front of me. So let's take a look. Oh, it smells so good though. You guys could serve this with my cornbread recipe, my cornless cornbread recipe. It's on my website. I'll have it linked down below. The combination of the two, I like to pour my chili on top of that cornbread. It's excellent. Well, that concludes our recipes for the week. I hope you guys got some really good ideas on how you can incorporate some family-friendly keto meals into your everyday dinners. These recipes are all delicious. They're really popular ones on my website. I'll have the full recipes listed down below for you in the description box, so make sure you check that out. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you guys want to see some more weekly meal prep and weekly keto dinner recipes, and hit the notification bell down below. I hope you guys have an excellent week. We'll see you next time. Bye.